of the time. Really, when we look at the times that aren't good, they're so small in comparison to all the other times, and yet we have a tendency to kind of focus on them and kind of pump them up and kind of make them bigger and tell a story to ourselves about it. So, research is amazing right now, and I have the list of a bunch of people's names if you're interested in YouTubing some of these presentations, because professors who are leading in research are getting to TED Talk and creating YouTubes, and you can just go and watch. So in Riverside, UC Riverside, there's a woman who has been studying happiness for about 20 years, and she's considered to be the foremost authority. And she has written a book that was published maybe 5 or 6 years ago that was very well, the flow of happiness was very well received, and it's scientifically documented. One of the researchers, they're curious about happiness, and our lesson today is about mindfully, and that is a kind of meditation, mindfully happy. Now, the frontal lobes are, our brain is 3 times bigger than it was when we were cave people. And all of the brain that has developed is this frontal lobe part. And the frontal lobe part is responsible for almost everything that makes us different than animals. They don't have this piece, the communication piece, but they also don't have the imagination piece. And so what we have that animals don't have is the ability to imagine how something is going to turn out. And so we run a scenario. I like to go on a date and say that I get from 0 to 60 in 2.2. I've buried the guy, I've divorced him and buried him, and it's over, and we haven't finished a cup of coffee. I just get that thing going so fast, 0 to 60 and 2.2. My family's even got a name for it because I'm so good at it. I'm already at the end before we've even gotten off the starting block. Well, research today says that system that you've got is about 100% faulty. 100% faulty. It imagines what isn't ever going to happen. And it's that piece of you that takes an issue, a little thing that happened, and makes a story out of it and entertains yourself with it and repeats it over and over until you believe that really you should be diagnosed as a narcissist because you think you're the center of the world and you believe that everything that has been done has been personally done to persecute you. We all do that. We all have this. So when I had a headache, somebody said, I bet you thought you had a brain tumor. We laughed and laughed because yes, I did. And yes, I did. Okay? And so you never know whether it's did I create that? I don't take any responsibility for that. I don't think I'm powerful enough to create a brain tumor. However, I know that I worried about it every single time I had a headache. Just like if the kid was 10 minutes late getting home from someplace, I was sure that they were dead on the side of the road. I just ran off to this, oh my God, it's the end of the world, it's the end of the world, it's the end of the world. Now, our happiness set point is about 48% predetermined. It's genetic. That's sort of mind-boggling. And these numbers have very recently been changing. So if I don't have them the way that you have heard them, it's because this stuff is changing very quickly. The research that says that you have a 48% of your happiness is predetermined. It came with your personality. That research is based on the studies that were done in the 30s, 40s, and 50s on identical twins that were separated at birth. So that's some old research information. However, what they found with those identical twins was when they reunited them 35, 40 years later, they had the exact same happiness set point. They had been raised in completely different environments. So they determined that 48% of you is happy by the way that you arrived. I'm kind of doomed. I got here mad, and I stayed mad for about 35 years. And then I decided I was tired of being mad. And I found this way of teaching, and I wanted to get out of it, changing that set point. Now, they say that 40% of your happiness set point is determined by the grand things that happen in your life. And you don't have a lot of control over those. They're determined by your finances. They're determined by your partner. They're determined by your health. 12% of your happiness set point can be adjusted. That's what you get to work with, is 12%. They believe that that's enough for you and me to be interested in working with our happiness. And there are lots of different ways that people say that you can change your happiness set point. Gratitudes is by far a powerful, powerful way. However, research used to say that you had to write 3 to 5 things you are grateful for every night for 21 days, and then you could adjust, your happiness set point would move up a little bit, and then you could go on about your business. But today they say that if you're going to use gratitude to move your set point of happiness, you can't stop. Now, they're liking happiness set point today as the same as weight set point. And they believe that everyone has, in their thinking, an ideal weight for themselves, and you can work really hard on it and adjust it. But if you don't pay attention, mine likes to go back about 20 pounds. I was shopping in my own closet today. So great to have let go of 20 pounds because there's clothes that you didn't even know you had that you could wear. But if I don't pay attention, it just, one of my favorite nurture myself is to go for Mexican food, and I come home from Mexican food, and the next day that scale says, Blodo, how do you feel today? Weren't those chips and salsa awesome? Did you like that cheese? How about everything fried? Oh, and I just go there, and if I don't make the habit of being mindful about how I eat, then I can't be mindful about my weight. So it's the same with happiness. It's being mindful about your gratitude list. It's not doing it for a significant period of time. It's changing your norm to gratitude, to noticing. Now, here's another really trippy statistic, and this one too has changed. So, years ago, they did research with people who, what's the greatest thing that could happen to you? Win the lottery, in case you didn't know. What's the worst thing that could happen to you? Become a paraplegic, in case you didn't know. Used to be that they said, based on that research, that 2 years later, you return to your set point. Now they say, in 6 months, the paraplegic is slightly less happy than they were the day before they had the accident, because who wouldn't like to have the use of all their arms and legs, their limbs? So they're slightly less happy in 6 months. However, the person who wins the lottery is not nearly as happy 6 months later. They're sad, because everything about winning the lottery makes all of the things that we are normally grateful for seem unimportant. The most important things to be grateful for are the really tiny things. I was fortunate enough a number of years ago, to have dated one of the wealthiest men in California. It was mind-blowing for me, literally mind-blowing. Like one time I'm looking at the menu in a restaurant and he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, deciding what I want to eat." And he says, "Well, just pick." And I said, "Well, I have to look at the prices." He says, "Not with me, you don't." Well, you know what? I won't pay for steak and lobster. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm perfectly happy with halibut or salmon. So I'm doing that, okay? He says, "Not with me, you're not. You just order what..." I still didn't order the steak and lobster. Another time in a restaurant, he said, "What are you having for dessert?" I said, "I can't decide." He said, "Well, then we'll have one of everything." I about had a heart attack. I said, "I can't possibly eat everything." He said, "You don't have to eat it all. You just have to taste it." There before us on the table was, I think, 12 desserts. I was about to have a coronary on the subject because I just couldn't believe that, and I didn't really want 12 bites of dessert. I just wanted like 1 or 2 bites of dessert. He had dogs. Now, I'm very proud of my dogs. I'm very proud of raising them and training them and work and all that it takes. He had dogs. He sent his dogs to the trainers. He got them when they were puppies, and the first year he had them, and his 2 dogs cost the same amount a day at the trainer as my house did a day. And he left them there more and more and more as he traveled. And so it was so obvious to see that the things that were bringing me joy, they weren't even on his radar. He spent $30,000 to take a private jet one day when he missed his flight. I don't even know what that's about. I can't even imagine such a thing. So I totally get that the person who wins the lottery 6 months later is bummed out. Now, so gratitude will change your set point. Altruism will change your set point, but not regular altruism. Altruism that's like, I feel like paying it forward for the person in line and they don't know who I am. Random. Anywhere that it gets routine, you have a tendency, we have this brain that adjusts. It adjusts and it adjusts and it adjusts. And so if you do something regularly, repetitively, it adjusts to that and it doesn't think that that's unusual or acceptable or exceptional or exciting, because your brain adjusts. So you have to keep the altruism, you have to keep mixing it up. You have to keep finding ways to serve, love, and care for other people. Now, one of the things said one of the men that I heard talk said that there are 4 areas of your life that are directly related to your happiness. One is faith. The first is faith. And he doesn't talk a lot about that. He talks about that as a personal call, what that means to you to fall in love with God, what that means to you to fall in love with God as God expresses itself, himself, herself through all of life, whether it's this spiritual community, another spiritual community, that has an effect on how happy you are. Family has an effect on how happy you are. The people, he said it's paramount to deal with those relationships. And for those of us who have lots of people in their family, we know that it's an ongoing invitation to continue to work on those relationships. Seems like it'd be a lot easier for me to move to Alaska or someplace far away, but they'd probably all just move there too. So, might as well just work through whatever it is that continues to show up in relationship with that. The Dalai Lama says we should treat each other like brothers and sisters. I think, you don't want to be treated like my brother or my sister. We're kind of creepy to each other. You'd be much better off to be my congregant. You get the best of me. They get kind of the worst of me. And I had a friend of mine and I decided the other day, let's try just only being really nice to each other. And I made about 3 sentences before I said something like, that was horrible. I won't even repeat what I said. As it flashed across my mind, I thought, I don't want you to know I said that. Okay, so I made it 3 sentences before I revert back to being comfortable with somebody. So the people we're comfortable with quite often aren't where we work out how to be really loving, kind, and respectful. And that's an amazing invitation for us. The third area, he says, is community. We do such a good job in this spiritual community of sharing to the community at large. And so we feel like we do the work, but that's where charity, that's where altruism really begins to come in. And then he said, and work. If you believe that the work you're doing is helping, is making a difference, it's not about money. So when people have lots of money, so when they score people on happiness, the rich people right next to the not so rich people, money is not what makes us happy. We have a tendency to think, if I have the right relationship, if I have the right income, if I have the right job, and for most of us who have ever experienced, and I don't care if it's ill health that's as minor as I stubbed my toe, when you stub your toe, you have 9 other toes that seem to be just fine and one that's not doing so well, and you're all about the one that's not doing so well, and not about the 9 that are fine. And if your toes are all fine right now, you're not paying any attention to them at all because they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So you're not giving thanks for them, you don't have your attention on them. Our tendency is to look to what we don't like. I loved the quote, change your mind. Instead of trying, if you can't change things outside of you, change your mind. So Jon Kabat-Zinn brought mindfulness to the United States in the 70s and 80s. Mindfulness is a little bit different kind of meditation than Transcendental or the other meditations that were coming up at that time. Mindfulness was not intended to be a spiritual practice. It wasn't intended to replace your spiritual community, and it was never intended to challenge any of your spiritual beliefs. Mindfulness was a practice that allowed you to not try to get or do or have anything. Mindfulness is a practice of being present in the moment. If you will do 10 minutes, now some of the mindfulness trainings say with your eyes open, so it's an eye open meditation. It's a meditation that's following your breath. 10 minutes doesn't seem like very long, and some people say you have to sit on a cushion, some people say you have to light candles, some people say you need to light incense, you need to have background music, you need to have a special place in your home. I live basically by myself, and still I don't have a place that I want to reserve. I would like more to be in that space of I can be mindful every moment that I remember. Mindfulness is going to impact our set point of happiness, maybe not so much by changing the set point, but by allowing what is in the moment to bring you to a place of peace. It's sort of hard to imagine why anybody wouldn't want to be mindful and to be happy in each and every moment. But remember, we've got these hyperactive frontal lobes that love to make up stories. They love to project. They love to take the information that you've got and take it into yourself and abuse yourself with it. Because every time you're telling yourself a story, first of all, that it's about you. If you're telling a story that it's about you, you're unable to look out and see if it's about them. Because the minute we go into the defensive place of, I've got to protect myself, it's about me, you're talking about me, we begin to contract. We begin to move back. We begin to close down. You can even see in somebody's physical body that they're beginning to come into themselves. Now, we don't say that narcissism is epidemic. But if you're making every single thing about you, Isn't that the definition of a narcissist? And narcissist he was a guy that fell in love with his own reflection and starved to death by the pool watching himself. He didn't even eat. And where he died, that plant is supposed to have grown up, those white smelly things, and that are called narcissus, right? Whatever they're called. Anyway, isn't that the story of, and isn't there some like metaphysical message in that for you? If you get so absorbed in your own story and it all being about you, that all you can do, and really compassion is the ability for me to empathize with another person. In order to empathize with another person, I have to be okay enough to imagine how they might feel. I might even need to be okay enough to listen to what it is that they're sharing with me. I might need to that might be the place where altruism, where service to others is the invitation. So the woman who is the leading, I can't even say her last name because it's like got more letters in it. And like I said, these people, if you're interested in any of these people, their names are all up here. Arthur Brooks is the guy who did Faith, Family, Community, and Work. He says that 89% of Americans will say that they're satisfied or happy with the kind of work that they do. That's probably the highest percentage in the world. We are so blessed to be grateful that we have found good work. And good work is not that I get paid a lot. Good work is that I make a difference with the work that I do. So that guy's Arthur Brooks. Sonia Luberinsky, who is the professor at Riverside. She is the mother of 4 and a professor. And she said, if we would write thank you notes every day, research says that will raise our set point of happiness, but she doesn't do it. I don't either. Who does? So Sylvia's sharing today was about increasing her gratitude. Gratitude to each other would be that we walk around in the world. I went to the Soviet Union in 1985. I went with Barbara Marx Hubbard, and we were going to be emissaries of peace. And so we spent days studying about how to be at peace, and I didn't learn a thing. I did learn that I wanted my children to be monks and to bow to each other when they saw each other in the hallways. And I'm still holding fast to that illusion because it has never been a reality. I have lovely, lovely children, 2 of whom do not get along with each other at all. And so peace to me meant that all we did was say, namaste, I see the God in you, you see the God in me, it's all good, we're all at peace. And I'm really clear that's not the world we're living in. And I'm also really clear that the world that we're living in isn't our idea. It's God's idea. We're a passenger here. We're a guest in God's house. If you were a guest in God's house, how would you behave? If you were a guest in God's house and you noticed that you were mad most of the time. Now, the reason that we would want to, I have a friend who says, I don't care if I'm mad all the time. I'm like, I do. We'll see you later. Because mad all the time means that everything irritates you. Everything irritates you. That you have an opinion. Psychology Today put out almost every issue they talk about children and some stuff about families. And so, because I have grandchildren, I read that. And I read the one that had all the definitions about eaters, kinds of eaters, and how difficult it is for families to have children that are difficult eaters. But it went a little step further and it said how our eating style actually shows our brain styles. And it went even further than that. It said the person who is the pickiest, the person who absolutely knows what they like and what they don't like, is the most miserable, because that person is out judging everything with the label of, I like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. There's so much of I don't like this in order for that person to get that little narrow band of what they do like, that they're not spending really very much time on what they do like. They're spending all their time on what they don't like. Now, it's a brain style. We could go back to, you got 12% changeable room in there, because 48% of it is genetic. The other 40% of it is whether you have big things in your life, money, health, the right partner. The 12% is saying thank you. The 12% is giving to someone in need. The 12% is shifting from, gosh, instead of what I don't like, I wonder if I could talk about what I do like. Ernest Holmes said, show me a person who is for something and against nothing, and I will show you a spiritually evolved person. For something and against nothing. When I first came here, they said, anything you don't like is just like somebody on the phone. If you tell them, hold, I'll be back with you in a few minutes, hold on, and you leave them there long enough, what do? They hang up, okay? If what you don't like, I love my analogy, you know what? If you stopped at every box of cereal on the cereal aisle that you don't like, and you told it what was wrong with it, how long would it take you to get through the market? And you just want a box of Cheerios, or you just want granola that doesn't have sugar in it. But if you walked down the aisle and you said, this one's bad because of this and this, you'd never get off the cereal aisle. And it's not going to do anything to the manufacturers of 1,200 other boxes of cereal because you choose one. There's nothing wrong with the other ones for somebody else, they're wrong for you. So our moving forward into life is not making anything that we don't choose bad or wrong. It's finding what we do choose. It's finding what is right for us. It's being decisive. In Think and Grow Rich, it said, successful people make decisions easily and they don't change them quickly. Unsuccessful people have difficulty making decisions, and once they make them, they change them 100 times. Successful people are decisive, and they stick with the decision to see how it's going to work out. I think that's interesting information for all of us. Mindfulness is not a practice that requires a pillow. It doesn't require a special room. It doesn't require a candle. It doesn't require anything but you taking 10 minutes to notice your breath and to be present, to notice your thoughts. You're not trying to stop your thoughts. You're observing your thoughts. Once you observe your thoughts, that's the place where you have the power to say, that thought hurts me. I don't need to think it anymore. This issue of Psychology Today has a spread, which I have not read, on technology and Facebook. I read it just far enough to read in to say, I'm that, and I don't need to read anymore. I go on Facebook every morning to write the prayer, and I have to go through my own Facebook page to get to the church's Facebook page to write the prayer. So I see just what's on the page. I have to notice myself if I start scrolling, what I'm looking for when I'm scrolling. Well, now I have a new thing I'm looking for now. Used to be I was looking to find out where my friends were that they hadn't invited me and they were at a party. One of my friends calls me from Washington. Hi, I see your kids are at Disneyland. That's nice. I didn't know. Well, it's all over Facebook. Nice. And I didn't know. And I live pretty close. Thanks for sharing. Okay. That's me. That's what I noticed I was doing on Facebook. I was hurting myself by now I'm still hurting myself. I like to see those terribly sad dog pictures. This morning I saw one with a dog with his eyes uncared for. It was very sad. I'm still hurting myself unnecessarily. If that's what I'm using that for, where else am I out in my world gathering evidence that the world is not friendly, the world is not loving, the world is not mostly a good ride? That's what this gave us, that we have the ability to say, I'm not sure that that's in my best interest. I think the God that is here as me. So what we believe is that God created itself as each one of us so that it could experience the life that we are having. The highest self of me is the God of us all. I am denigrating that powerful essence in me if I am out collecting evidence about what's wrong with the world. I'll never get an audience where I get to say, if you'd fixed this and if you'd done that and if you'd been here or if you'd been there or if you'd done that. I don't think that's the invitation. And when we go to a mindfulness practice grows our acceptance of what is in the moment now. It grows our understanding of what is minuscule that we could be thankful for. Not the things that we are always thankful for, because we are always thankful for our families. We are always thankful for our friends. We are always thankful for the places we can share our gifts. Where are the nuances of places that we can be grateful, that are unusual, that lift our spirits into truly knowing the world is precious? You are here on purpose. God has a purpose with the life, with the people, with the family, with the talent, with the height, with the gender that you are. God came to experience itself as you. When we open ourselves to that, we open ourselves to that is the mindfulness practice. That is the pause. Deepak Chopra said, God's in the pause. The pause is a quarter of a second between the next thought. That's where God is. So for us, that mindfulness can be an everyday. You don't know how to do it. You want to do it. You can go online and you can read about it, but it doesn't take lessons. All it takes is practice. There's just like if you learn to play the piano, just like if you learn to ski, you have to practice. What they can see now with fMRIs is that when you practice mindfulness, the strength in your brain to say to a negative thought, I'm not going to pay attention to you, gets stronger. That's why we're practicing mindfulness, is so that when we have those hurtful stories, those painful, the world is out to get me, we can say, no, thank you, that's not the truth, and follow the idea. That's what mindfulness practice does for us. 10 minutes is so doable once a day. And most of us find 10 minutes that we're in between things that are the invitation where we can pause and listen to the Spirit. Sylvia stood up this morning. There were some moments of pause. Observe yourself. Are you uncomfortable in that? I'm a speed demon and a time Nazi. So, 5 minutes of pause, 1 second of pause. I'm like, oh my God, I've got to do something. I came to find peace in me. That's who I am. Who are you? The Spirit, perfect, whole and complete, with the discovery that you are making worshiping yourself. God bless you for choosing church. So let's take this moment and turn within in prayer, allowing the gratitude that fills our being to go before us, to illuminate our path, to remind us again and again of the beloved people, the people, the journey, that the awesome opportunities that are on that journey are to discover who we are. That empathy and compassion is getting outside of myself and being present in another person. That the world isn't all about me. It's all about the good of God. And everywhere that I discover that, I am free to celebrate and worship the truth. It empowers me. It strengthens me. It blesses the world around us. We are children of the Most High. We are on purpose whether we know it or not. And our invitation is to step in to the peace, to the grace, to the harmony, because life is good. God is good. And so it is. Amen.